Welcome to Inside Marketing with Market Surge, your front row seat to the boldest ideas and smartest strategies in the marketing game. Your host is Reed Hansen, Chief Growth Officer at Market Surge.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Marketing with Market Surge. Today's guest is the one and only Richard Blank, a Northeast Philly native who bet on himself, packed what mattered, and that included his Spanish fluency, and headed to Costa Rica. What was supposed to be a short training gig turned into the foundation of Costa Rica's call center, which he built up from a one-seat operation to a thriving nearshore BPO powering inbound support, lead gen, appointment setting, and more. He's trained over 10,000 bilingual telemarketers, runs a telemarketing school, and even infuses retro arcade gamification like pinball games and jukeboxes into company culture. He holds a communications and Spanish degree from the University of Arizona, plus a language certificate from Seville, gives back to his alma mater with a scholarship, and has appeared on podcasts exploring leadership, growth, and how to make work feel like play. Are you ready to dive in? Welcome, Richard.
Hey, thank you so much, Reed. That was quite the introduction. Perfect Cliff Note version, but definitely getting an ROI on my education at the University of Arizona.
Awesome. So you moved down to Costa Rica full time. I think it was age 27, I think I saw. That was
Yeah.
supposed to be a temporary gig. So what made you stay, and what were the first moments that made you think that you could make a business down there?
How many vacations have you been on where you said, I could live here? How to
Oh yeah,
figure out a way.
right,
Um,
right.
27 is a very interesting age in regards to certain musicians that passed on, but sometimes
That's true.
it's really, you're still young, but you're not too old. And I kind of see it as a shedding skin coming of age time, not just when you're 13 beating up a bully or getting on your first date. But I was in between jobs. I wasn't lost. I was just trying to decide where I wanted to spend the next couple decades. So my cousin Joe said, "Hey, Ricardo, why don't you come to Costa Rica for a couple months and work at my friend's center? Teach English for a little bit, take a time out." Sometimes when you're in a certain environment, you see more than what's offered. And it wasn't like I was doing things to earn my stripes or to put in my time. No, I'm not writing something on a chalkboard or washing dishes. I was in a linguistic environment. It's different from what Hollywood shows when you walk into a real call center. I still believe in the art of speech. And when you're dealing with people that are bilingual, it bears the mark of higher education. Imagine their engagement. And so I felt the energy. I saw the artist nature of it. I saw the camaraderie and the mutual support at this type of job compared to others where it's cutthroat and people laugh with others. And so um, I knew this. I can give it an equivalent to wiffle ball with a big red bat. It's underhand pitches. I knew I could do this. I just got to learn it,
Awesome.
but I
Yeah.
got the tingles and I
Okay.
decided to stay. And so I was at my friend's center for 4 years, learning the business from the inside out and learning the Costa Rican culture. And then in my mid 30s, I threw my hat in the ring, started my business, and here we are 19 years later. I can't believe it. It's almost like the stars were aligned. My brother, this should have never happened. But it did. And
Yeah.
from time to time, you gotta grab onto the tail and see where it takes you.
So, I have a note here. You did this without any outside investment. So, you've bootstrapped your way now, which is fantastic. How have you done this wisely where, you haven't got out ahead of yourself and put yourself in bad financial situations? What kinds of calculations do you make when you're deciding whether to grow or be more conservative?
Two things. It's about being financially responsible. I got to make sure I cover payroll and other
Hmm.
things to stay in business. And second, I was never really into what's behind the curtain. Like even in The Wizard of Oz, when they pulled the curtain back and you saw this guy moving things and touching things, it kind of deflated the image. And I didn't want that. I wanted consistency. You can rent the most expensive real estate for a call center, but if the majority of your clients don't visit you and the environment is an overkill to what people should be doing, kind of like Rocky 3 when he trained in that nice gym, he got his ass kicked. Had to go out to California and go to an old school gym. And so I grew up in Northeast Philly, 70s and 80s kid. And so I kind of like grit. And I like when coaches call the balls and the strikes. and they make you toughen up a little bit. And when you look left and right and the people that are with you, they get better. So I like surrounding myself with people that are willing to put in the time and have core. And so for me, you know, with the technology, I have the CTO and I have other people, but I wanted to go what I could bring out of you.
Mm.
You ever see a kid get into a fist fight? He's exhausted, but there's still something in him that keeps him standing. Maybe it's his pride or his boys are around him or he just wants to test himself. And I felt that this industry was a luxury trade besides the technology behind it and the bad rap sometimes telemarketers get. As I mentioned before, it gives you such self-confidence and reliance to communicate with someone through a medium and to convert a call and to extend calls and to focus on your quality. And I thought it was beautiful. And so for me, I wanted to, through gamification, maybe it was the pinball machines or the air hockey table or the fighting machines, that someone could, um, as I mentioned, have a breakthrough. If you see somebody laughing at work, read, see a different side of them. I mean, they're
Yeah.
vulnerable because they might laugh funny, but you
Right.
see that they have a real side to them and you might connect through other ways. And so I wanted to see if I could be that guy that bring the best out of people linguistically. And so,
Mm.
um, how did I start this thing? Well, grandma always said if you can't pay for it in cash, you shouldn't do it.
Mm.
So I was raised to act my wage, and I believe in the word pacing because you could either putter out or you could be too slow or you stall out. So there's always that, like in golf, that sweet spot on your three wood. There's a perfect
Nice.
place to hit
Nice.
it.
Hmm.
So what did I do? Well, I was a guest in this country. So I didn't have a home court advantage. I needed to surround myself with experts, but that was at the second stage. The first stage for me was renting a turnkey station at a blended call center, kind of like a fancy internet cafe. I didn't
Hmm.
own the plane, but I could do seat by seat and row by row. And I did that way so I could pay for the seat, the salary benefits, and make my margin. It was a glamorous no, but exciting, like freshmen living in the dorm. You don't want to be there all college, but it's freaking fun,
Yeah.
fall of freshman year. So I was in the honeymoon stage and this plane took off and I couldn't believe that I was retaining clients and people would stay with me for a while and I was actually able to adjust with that attrition rate. And then after a couple of years when I had the stability of the clients and some capital, I rented space and I also bought used equipment. I'm willing to admit it. And so I wanted to avoid the 80% import tax. And so it's like the depreciation of a car. When you buy it, I'll still get the Porsche, just let me buy it a year later. So I'm not, I save 30 grand. But I was able to get Dells and HPs, and I was able to get chairs and other monitors and stuff for a fraction of the cost. And if you can suck in your pride and not have to be Mr. Fancy Dancy, you might be able to survive. And so I was
Hmm.
always having that the nuts for the winter mentality.
Mm.
I always wanted to do that like a squirrel. And so I did that for 6 years. And then when I really had the capital and I really had the clients, then I purchased property, put on a third floor, decked it out Art Deco with neon lights and marquees, the old school way. And as I say, it took me 19 years, while most of your people do it at the age of 19, with these apps and their
Sure.
connection. Unfortunately, my man, with a football analogy, I had to grind out the yardage and the first downs. These weren't Deion Sanders long runs. I really had to grind this out. But when you have momentum, eventually, Reed, you and I are going to put that ball in the end zone. And so
Yeah.
I just knew just to hang in there for the long game.
Where do you think your grit comes from? So, you mentioned North Philly and you used aptly the Rocky Balboa metaphor earlier. Um, I mean, do you think it comes from your family or do you think it's, you're born with it? Where do you attribute it to?
Since you're since we're friends, I'll definitely disclose some of my method of my madness. It had a lot to do with some losses.
Mm.
When I was 13, I was politely asked to leave the private school that I was at.
Mm, I
And that
see.
was and that was the school that my father and brother graduated from, a prestigious school called Germantown Academy. I was there since
Yeah,
kindergarten, got kicked out
I
in
actually heard
seventh
of
grade.
it.
And I had poor grades. I really did. I failed all my classes. Was I rebelling? I don't know. It was just a weird year for me. And so they kind of gave up. But I didn't want to give up on myself while sitting there at summer school. And so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't that kid that the mother's committee whispered about or the kids weren't allowed to play with or the teachers made an example of. That was an interesting time for me. And so going from there to Abington, and you had mentioned the scholarship, sure, I do a scholarship for a graduating senior that wants to study second languages like me.
Oh, awesome.
When you see the dedicated practice read, that's above and beyond the classroom. The kid really loves what he does.
Right.
And for me, it wasn't painting pictures or learning the violin. I was a linguist. So I was constantly studying my Spanish. And so um, that made that circle complete. And also my family. My family runs a real estate company in the United States. That's what we've always done. And we're in the garment industry back in New York. It's the kind of thing where if something is set up for you, it's good. But
Mhm.
when it's homemade and you do it yourself, it's the sweetest taste in the world. And I just wanted to see if I could do it.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't want to use my parents' and friends' connections. I wanted to start from scratch. Yo, the first car I bought down here for 200 bucks was a 1993 Yugo GVX. Yugo. It was the Grand Value Extra. Right. It had seats
Fantastic.
that moved forward. But why did I want to do it? Because I wanted to start in the tent in the game of
Mhm.
life and maybe end up in a mansion. I wanted to really see if I could be raw and if Richard had the value. And I did. And so these were a lot of personal tests I had to get through family guilt. I had to make my argument. I couldn't compare notes to anybody because no one was a Spanish major and no one wanted to start a call center. So, what kind of notes can I compare to my buddies? They had no
Yeah.
clue. They just wished me well. And so, um, you want to have a hero's journey. You want to live a life where you go somewhere, come back and tell tall tales, and you learn something. And so, when we're reading these fables and people are giving us these stories of winners and adventurers, I kind of wanted that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, You know, a lot of it has to do with maturity. You got to choose the right age to make those big decisions, unless, you know, you might mess that up. So, those are some of the things in my childhood that motivated me and put me in a certain direction, not to prove people wrong, but not to allow certain weight to hold me back mentally and physically. And so, maybe that was the rebel in me, Reed, that came out.
Well, that is very inspiring. I think that's a great story. And now, in your current offering, you are a coach. And I imagine this story is a helpful illustration in your coaching. But I understand you coach people that work for you and people that you work with. What can you tell us a little bit about your coaching offering? What's your approach? What kinds of needs people come to you with?
Of course. Paying it forward is the premise of everything that I do. I don't expect anything in return. I'm just sharing information with somebody, not asking them to sign anything. And a lot of the business that I get is because I do offer a fair slice of information, not just a bit to get your interest.
Mhm.
And a lot of people will thank me when I make certain recommendations, or I'll politely say, you don't have enough of a lead list to call, or on your end, you're not ready yet for this sort of service. And it's not like I don't want the business, just ethically, you got to do the right thing. But I learned patterns over the years. And so if you've analyzed over 10,000 phone calls and you've trained over 10,000 people, you might see things. And so
Mhm.
a lot of it might seem like common sense to somebody, but if they're distracted, they're not going to notice it in the moment. So that's why this incredible structure that we have allows us to pull certain things out of calls that you see, and you can talk about it, adjust it, and make them even a stronger engine. And so I like to focus on the thesaurus because the semantics, the vocabulary is so important. It could really adjust a tone. And a tone should always be empathetic and confident. So I'll take out words like help and have them use assist, guide, and lend a hand depending on the stage of the relationship. And instead of saying excuse me or I'm sorry, I'm going to be passive aggressive and inadvertently let you know I can't hear your because of your dog, your cell phone, or just your noise.
Mhm.
So I'm going to say for my clarification, was it A, B, C, or one, two, three? We do things like that. Military alphabet. So I
Mhm.
don't have to guess your email address and I can make sure
Mm.
it doesn't bounce back. I can pronounce your exotic name, which most people thank me because most people are afraid to ask how to pronounce your name. And you might get lucky. People may have served in the military. So it's just an excellent way to anchor with someone in the conclusion of a call compared to ending it quickly. So then when you know someone's been a master sergeant, next time you speak with them, you could mention that or talk to them about Veterans Memorial Day or just on how much of a hero they are and sincerely mention that because it's like breaking down the fourth wall in Hollywood. I always felt it was fun to see what it looked like on that wall and the audience and the cameras. And when you and I put our script aside and we do talk about your military service or traveling the world or jukeboxes or things like that, it puts us on a level playing field compared to the push and the pull. And I never enjoyed that. I always believed that there should be recess during school, and boxers get a minute in between 3 minute rounds to be in the corner. And so it's only healthy to take a breath. And so it allows things to settle and find its place. And so I need people to be a little more focused in the now, to not be so they're so daring when it comes to memorizing their script and doing that. Well, it can seem jagged. It doesn't seem natural like a half moon or a wiggle or like a floating feather. It's just asking questions. And it's ugly with people. It's like a checklist.
Yeah.
And so we speak a lot about a positive escalation, for an example.
Hmm.
If you have Judy that's answering the phone for your inside marketing, podcast, it's amazing. But here's the skins. We'll say the name of your company better than she will.
Right.
And we'll use our anonymity in the beginning of the call, not the whole call, because that's shady, but it allows us not mystery shopping. But I'm not just going to say, may I speak to Reed, or good morning, ma'am, or hello, my name is Richard. They're black and blue from that, or they're comparing you to others. But if I can in my first impression say the name of your company in the most beautiful
Mhm.
way to get our act together, and secondly, you get to gauge positive reinforcements, positive or negative. And so instead of saying, is this a sales call, take me off your list, how'd you get my name, she'd be like, who's this? And then the technique that we use, the buffer boomerang, I'm going to say, Judy, that's an excellent question. My name is Richard Blank. And so you
Yeah.
name drop, great question, repeat the question and send it back so you don't have to ask it. These are things that reduce talk time and frustration levels. She'll usually ask my name. I won't give my company yet because I want to double dip and make sure Judy says, well, who is Richard Blank? Compares to, is this a sales call, which means it's good. Then
Mhm.
I will mention Costa Rica's call center and is Reed available? Before I get transferred, I'm going to let her know verbally how amazing she was. When you pick up the phone, hi, this is Reed. Hey, Reed, I just got to let you know how great Judy is. You don't even know who I am yet. Friends
Yeah.
goes from a 10 to a 2, and I take that 8 and use that into forward motion in physics. And then I'll do it in writing, my man. We wrap
Okay.
up your call, and I do the meeting minutes, regardless of the outcome for doing business.
Mhm.
I will not only show you I take copious notes where there's accountability and, target date, but I'll mention Judy. And so you might say people do this from time to time, not in writing, 1 out of 1,000 if you're lucky. And so
Sure.
when Richard Circle comes back and I happen to call your company back and Judy picks up the phone, you don't think I get a hero's welcome. So
Yeah, of course you do.
I've been able to land an enormous amount of business by showing good faith prior to any sort of contracts. They see how I treat people all over their company. And so at the end of the day, I might be $1 more than the Philippines, but they love the old school bedside manner, soft skills that we do here. People really can relate to it. And so those are the sort of things that I'll share with people. I'll talk to them about phonetics and their rate of speech and their speaking level so they can use the mirror imaging technique.
Hmm.
I will match that of you. Why? To see if you spike or you dip, because I don't know you. So these are like micro expression readings phonetically. I
Mhm.
think you should do it in 30-second segments, okay? Because you get 20 in a 10-minute call. It's great.
Yeah.
And I can see if you're going fast, slow, loud, or soft, doesn't mean you like it or don't like it. But that's usually when someone, Reed, needs to ask a tie down or a clarification question just to make sure it makes sense or sounds good or things like that. And so you give checkpoints. You get a solid 3 minutes compared to a shaky 10. And you'll have romantic deaths where if the call does not work out, at least you and I know that we gave it our college try. This is a real
Yeah.
call. It just so happens the percentage didn't work that way. You wanted seafood when I sell steak. And so these are the sort of things, my final point on this, it's something that you can use outside of the office. So instead of just putting it away in a drawer until tomorrow morning, these are the sort of skills that can save a marriage, a Thanksgiving dinner, make you a new friend. And your life will be much more enriched with these skills that you enhance.
Interesting. Well, I am not surprised that a 25-year veteran of this is talking circles around me and telling such compelling stories. And I feel like I need this service. I need this as a part of my offering. And you're very persuasive. One last thing I want to touch on. I don't like to do marathon podcasts, but
Ah,
I wanted to ask, there are a lot of people that are considering and balancing costs. Say they have a large operation that they like to do outreach with, and they're starting to weigh some of these new voice AI tools versus a service like yours. What would you say to them?
versus slander is the worst form of rhetoric. I'm not going to speak ill will of AI. Plus, they're going to be taking over one day.
Right?
Let,
Yeah, they're
let's let,
listening.
let's talk about the advantages of AI, and then we can gauge it accordingly. Um, for me, AI is a gathering tool for the call center industry. You've been on IVRs, integrated voice response systems, or you entered your information. Some of it's accurate. Sometimes you get frustrated and have to
Mhm.
repeat and press zero. But they'll bring the ball down to the 10-yard line. They can do that. And they can replace a lot of entry and front level agents here that might have fatigue or misunderstandings. You might get more accuracy when they get better at it. But that final 10%, Reed, AI will never, ever be able to replace true empathy. That's right, compassion between human beings. If they try, you're going to realize that it's a print, not a painting. It's not real. And
Mm.
that's okay. I mean, a machine can give you a hug. But no, man, if I'm having a really bad day or if I'm elated and having the best day of my life, I'm calling Reed. I'm going to hang out with you. I just kind of don't want R2D2 giving me an answer. And so
Right.
there's something called the uncanny valley. The more that these machines get human-like, it might freak us out a little bit to the point of where we don't want to speak to a machine because we feel inferior, intimidated, or we know that it's replacing one of our own. It's just, I know that a lot of people are doing robocalls or they have omni-channel non-voice
Mm.
responses like a chat and email, things like that. And it's, you can get the immediate response, you can get what you're looking for. It's great for companies, but there's a lot of people that still like to listen to vinyl, okay?
Right.
And they like to
Right.
hold the book in their hand and read it. And there are people like myself that will pay the extra 10% if I can press zero and speak to Judy to work with me on a reservation or the experience. I just don't know. It's just my way. But yes, AI will be making my industry a lot more tidy and flexible for the consumer. And but on the flip side, if you kind of want that grandma apple pie, all American feel, you might still want to have that person answering the phone for you and being there for you because they can truly represent your company in the best light. They can uncover things that maybe AI would have not been able to uncover during a call. They might be more effective when it comes to retention to save a client compared to just filling out a complaint form.
Mhm.
They might earn more referrals than a computer program. They might be satisfied with your service, but if you're speaking to someone, you might tell three or four of your friends to call Richie at extension 101, and how about the most mature answer, Reed? The exit interview. Let's just say something does go wrong. You might save the company money or a direction if you do have that human speaking to the other human so they don't feel rushed or just filling out that form, and even upselling. I mean, if someone's in a great mood, you can share with that transfer of energy, that electromagnetic transfer. And
Yeah.
how do I explain? I'm not pitching my business so I stay in business. I'm very realistic on
No,
what can be done.
you're
But
doing a great job.
it's like the farmer. Do you think he wants to go there and milk the cows or have the machine do it? I don't know. I think when a farmer sits with the cow and pats it and talks to it and spends that 30 to 5 a.m. time with the cow, there's that connection. Maybe the milk tastes better. I don't, but I think it does.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Richard, where can people who want to work with you, want to take you up on this great service you offer, where can they reach you?
When it gets really cold, I should buy a ticket and fly to Costa Rica. We're
That
only
leaves
in
you, Richard.
Central America, man. I'm north of Panama and south of Nicaragua, just a couple hours away from a direct flight. And real quick about this beautiful country, democratic society in Central America, no standing army. They
Richard, can
put
you
their
hear me?
money into education, so they got a 95% literacy rate. And check
Oh,
this out, Reed. They have companies such as Amazon, HP, Intel, and Oracle that are here. So they're a player.
and Richard, I'm sorry, you cut out just for a second, so I got the last of your response. So I don't know if you heard my question. I was just asking if people are looking for your services, where can they find you? I might just ask you to repeat it,
Not a
just so.
problem.
Okay, yeah.
Buying that first class plane ticket and flying down here during your cold months.
Love
Because I
it.
mentioned we're right here in Central America, north of Panama, south of Nicaragua. It's just a couple hours, and it's safe. It's a democratic
Awesome.
society, no standing army,
Awesome.
95% education rate, and so Amazon, HP, Intel, Oracle are here. So I've been very impressed with the infrastructure and living here. I've never felt in danger or threatened. It's pura vida. Is what they say in
Yeah.
Costa Rica, pure life, and that's the sort of culture and lifestyle that they have. But nah, your audience can shoot me an email at CEO at
Okay.
Costa Rica's callcenter.com. Just check me out online. And as I mentioned, I can't thank you enough. The greatest thing for me to do is to hang out with you on your podcast, share
Thank
some
you.
ideas. And listen, I'm not one of those telemarketers that will call you during dinner. If I do, let Reed know. He'll kick my ass. We try to show individuals in this industry that it is a means to an end. You can produce a lot of business, save a lot of business, and just kind of learn the workings of a call center infrastructure and why it might be an advantage to a small to a medium-sized business that want to unload some of those duties to someone like us so they can grow.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Richard, for joining us today. And I'll include your links in the show notes as well. And please reach out. Richard obviously does great work. And I think this is a great offering for many small and medium sized businesses that do outreach.
Yeah.
Want to stay ahead of what's actually working in marketing right now? Head over to marketsurge.io and see how we're helping businesses grow smarter, faster, and louder. That's marketsurge.io, because your next breakthrough shouldn't be a guess.